this is how the Electoral College map looks like. It's very similar to the consensus, as you can see here, amongst all pollsters. And I'm just going to give you my hunch as to who is going to win the 2024 presidential election. And let's go state by state. Let's start with the Sun Belt, all right, with the state of, let's go with Georgia, the state of Georgia. According to 538, the state of Georgia is R+1 in favor of Trump. And I believe in that state we've seen the record turnout, like surprising record turnout in the election. Now that could go either way, but in the state of Georgia, there's no partisan indicator. So in other words, it doesn't tell you which party the voter is from. So I would say this one is given to the Republicans by a very tilt margin, very slight margin, very small. Definitely would have to say that, just because of the numbers we've seen. Yes, it's a large number of voters turning out to vote. Has been broken records, even larger than during the 2020 election. So that's pretty impressive. I still see Republicans winning that, though, just because of how accurate the polls are, or they were in 2020. Similar to what you see in Nevada. Let's move to Nevada. In Nevada, there is a interesting phenomenon happening with the early vote, which is Republicans are outpacing Democrats in the early vote, and usually that's not the case, especially in 2020. But with the caveat that in 2020, there was a pandemic. So it's a little bit more of a different situation than what you see in 2024. We don't have a pandemic in 2024. So that's the ticket. In Nevada, we still, I believe, have Harris up by 0.2%. But because the data shows otherwise, I do see Nevada tilting in favor of the Republican Party as well, in favor of Donald Trump in that case. That puts Republicans at 242 and Democrats at 225. Now let's look at the state of Arizona. I'm going to go through the entire Rust Belt. The state of Arizona, if I'm not mistaken, has Trump up by 2% in the state. Now, the state has swung wildly from one instance to another. We also don't see very good numbers for Democrats there. We see something, sort of similar to what's happening in Nevada, where you're seeing a little bit of an overperformance for Republicans on the early vote. It's a partisan lean state there, so I'm going to put Arizona also in a tit categorization in favor of Donald Trump. Now let's move on to North Carolina. This is going to be a surprising one for you all. In North Carolina, we do have, this is in North Carolina specifically, we do have Trump up by 1.2%. It is one of those states where Republicans have consistently edged out the Democrats. But there's a unique situation here, which is that in that state, there is a governor race that has the Democrat winning by upwards of 15%. And if you're Donald Trump and you're leading by only 3%, I believe it is, by 1% in North Carolina. I believe it is a very close race for sure. Now, in this instance, I still think that the Republicans could edge it out. In fact, I'm gonna have it as a tilt for the Republicans, but I think it's by a very narrow margin. Now, that puts Republicans just one electoral college vote away from victory. But let's look at the other states, shall we? Let's look at the state of Wisconsin. In the state of Wisconsin, you have Harris by 0.2%. We have some, yes, the polling has been all over the place in Wisconsin, but it's one of those that if one goes down, so does the other two. And I want you to keep that in mind when I move to the other states. I'm not going to categorize Wisconsin yet. Let's go to Michigan, where you have Harris up by just shy of 1%. And let's go to, and in Michigan, you've seen very good early voting numbers for the Democrats, same as in Wisconsin. And in Pennsylvania, actually not Pennsylvania on the Senate, but rather Pennsylvania on the state level, you do have Trump by 0.3%. But in the early voting numbers, including the mail-in voting numbers, you have a situation where you have the Democrats out by a substantial amount. They're beating Republicans 70-30 on that, and they're building that same firewall they had in 2020. So in that regard, I give the Rust Belt trio to the Democratic Party, starting with Pennsylvania by a tilt margin, Michigan by a tilt margin, and Wisconsin by a tilt margin, giving this race a 269 to 269, which means I'm forgetting one electoral college vote, but I would give this race to the Democrat in this instance, if I'm not mistaken. I think I'm missing this other one over here. Let me see which one I'm missing. So if I'm in Nebraska, Maine is 2 of them, Nebraska 3 of them. But yeah, don't know why I have it in 269 to 69, but I meant to give you, to show you that I was going to give it to Harris by one electoral college vote. But for some reason it shows 269 to 69. I probably made a mistake somewhere. But essentially, this is the state of the race. 2 weeks out before Election Day, extremely close race. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes either way, but I do see Kamala Harris winning by one electoral college vote. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, share with your friends, and I'll see you all in the next one.